Hi there, everyone. I'm Michielle Freeman, Realtor with Edina Realty.
I'm Steve Mohabir, mortgage consultant with Edina Realty Mortgage.
And you're watching Tea Time Tips. How's it going, Steve?
Great. How about you?
I'm busy.
Spring market?
The spring market. Spring market is here. When I start eating Wendy's in my car on a Saturday at about 3 o'clock because I haven't eaten all day, that's my sure sign that spring market is here. Happens every year.
How are the new fries?
Still not as good as the competitors' fries from a few decades ago, but whatevs. I still eat them. I still get the combo meal.
Fantastic.
But that has actually brought up some questions for me as I am out there with my buyers that I would love sort of your advice on.
Sure.
Or some talking points. So as predicted, rates are starting to go a little bit up farther than they were before. So
sure.
I have had buyers who are not first-time home buyers, which is where I used to see this conversation. They're second, third move-up buyers, and they are shopping at sort of the digital lenders. And my talking points immediately with them are, well, first, make sure you're comparing apples to apples with the digital versus Steve. But also in this market, and I talk about my experience as a listing agent as well, when I see those digital lenders come in, that isn't always as competitive if there's other offers on the table, just because I'm not sure what's going to happen. So what are some talking points I can give to buyers who are shopping that avenue?
So yeah, the immediate thought to my mind is what are you going to get in return? So if you're a listing agent and you see an online lender and why are you afraid of them, right? Well, you're afraid of them because there's no accountability. The accountability for closing your transaction, closing it on time, and being a steward of your client is not necessarily there. Yes, it's convenient. Yes, they sometimes have flashy rates, but it doesn't always boil down to what actually makes sense for clients in the real world. The first thing I talk about is fees. In Minnesota, most online lenders aren't from Minnesota, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not super versed in normal fees like mortgage registration tax and conservation fee and things that are second nature to me doing this 20 years in Minnesota. They don't get it right. Like, so if I'm in competition with them, and competition is good. Don't get me wrong. Competition is good for clients. It's good for the environment. But when they don't get the fees right, it almost boils my blood, right? Like, what else aren't they going to get right? One of the biggest transaction pieces, especially in today's market with multiple offers and prices going higher than list over 100% of the time from what we hear. What is their appraisal process? If they're in, call it Michigan, hiring an appraiser, who are they hiring? Who does that person have experience? And are they well versed in how that lender works? That to me is a very, very scary point, because you can get appraisals aren't an exact science, right? There's ups and downs, and there's some bias by neighborhoods and things like that. There's not supposed to be, but based on comps and things, and there can be some adjustments made, and different appraisers make different adjustments. So based on busy streets and things like that. But that would be the first and foremost. And what is their process if an appraisal does come in? How do they navigate that with the client? Is it deals over? Is it those type of things. And most of the time, if you're dealing with not a real person and not a real person online, that's not online, you can have these conversations. Even with the first time home buyer, as you suggested, I think, you run into, not getting educated enough, which is, another big problem, the different types of mortgage insurance and different types of down payment assistance guaranteed that the online lenders aren't talking about that kind of stuff. So it's critical on multiple levels. So fees, appraisal, and, are you going to get what you need on the weekend, right? When you're actually making an offer, when you're actually looking at houses, how quick are they to respond? I did a pre-approval last night at 10 o'clock. That's part of my job working with you guys. You write offers at 10 o'clock. So, are you going to get an online one that looks good and it feels good? Probably not. You're going to get a loan officer who will call a listing agent? Probably not. So some of the little things that help you get a house just aren't there. And you're going to probably shop a lot more than getting your offer accepted, if you go with one of those lenders.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of the appraisal piece, so I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I definitely use the fact that, hey, if we need to write an offer at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, Steve will pick up my phone call or at least text me back. So I'm glad you talked about the appraisals and just to sort of piggyback on that right now, because, I had to do a comparative market analysis over the weekend as well. How are appraisals coming in right now? Or I know that we've had a little bit of shortage in the inventory. Like, how is that affecting the appraisal?
I don't have the stats yet. Well, from February, because it's not over.
Yep.
But last January stats were still coming in over 90, I think 92, 93%.
Okay.
We're coming in at or above value,
Okay.
which is good. I think there's enough sales, there's enough cash sales that are supporting values.
Okay.
I think it might be tougher in the spring market as prices keep getting pushed higher.
Yeah.
Normally it's about 5% don't hit value.
Okay.
But I think we may dip down into the 10% range here from normalcy, I guess, if there is such a thing.
Yeah. Normal is day to day in this business right now. That's what I've learned.
Or hour to hour, sure.
Sometimes, yeah. I'll take it in a day, 24-hour lump. So, all right. Well, I appreciate everything. Do you have anything else to touch on?
I think that's good for this week. Yeah, that's a lot in a nutshell.
That's a lot in the nutshell. So this is Tea Time Tips. I'm Michielle Freeman with Edina Realty.
And Steve Mohabir with Edina Realty Mortgage.
And we'll see you next month.